Hey y'all, hey, it's your girl Rana Dior, and today on the assignment we are talking about, are we there yet? First of all, I would like to say, we are, 5 days away, give or take, from the end of 2020. Now, I know some of you are like, man, can we come on? I'm ready to press fast forward myself, okay? But we are here. We've made it all the way to December the 26th of 2020. And for some of you that understand the sentiment of that, you understand and you agree and you connect with me on this because you and I both know that 2020 has been a year, honey. It has been a rough patch. And we have literally have been trying to just make it through to the end. And everybody wants to know, are we there yet? Have we come to the end yet? Are we finally done with what's going on yet? Like, can we make it? Like, we have experienced celebrity deaths that has rocked us because of people we admire and we look up to. We have been hit by various deaths within our own community and within our own homes. We have experienced good old COVID with the shutdown. Hello, somebody. Now that has rocked all of our lives and all of our worlds. Okay. I should say that I kind of thought this year might be a little different when we kicked it off with the death of Kobe Bryant in January. I said, this is how we're going to start the year. Really? Oh, okay. And then inserts everything that has been going on. And if you are in the Tennessee area, if you know anything about Tennessee, they've had two big, we'll say, very traumatic events occur in the Nashville area. That was the tornado that just tore up downtown and displaced so many people a week before COVID shut us all down. And then here recently, on Christmas Day to be exact, we had a bombing downtown Nashville, and now we're on curfew and everybody shut down and at high alert because what in the world is going on? How did this happen? So to say the least, 2020 has been a year. And I can even personally attest to the fact that although it hasn't been extremely detrimental to my life, it did throw a monkey wrench in my plans. And you see, I wrote a book this year, wrote it, published it, and it hit the press the week before COVID shut us down. The week before. I had, your girl planned a book release, a signing, a major launch, and then had the audacity to also be launching my private practice at that same time, and then shut down. And I was like, no, you didn't. It took me by surprise like it took everybody. So it kind of threw a curveball in the plans that I didn't have a backup plan for. Okay. That was the plan. That was what I was looking forward to. That's what I was excited about. That was the plan. So I should say wasn't on my toes for an immediate bounce back in that situation like most of us. And then in launching my private practice, I said, okay, is this going to be one of the businesses that get impacted by it? But the saving grace about the private practice that I launched is I am a licensed therapist and a self-care coach, and it's all online. And this has been the year of, if you don't know anything electronically, you learned all things electronically, and we all are now tech savvy. We can do our own IT department and our own home remodeling at this point. And so that was the saving grace about what I launched. It was something that people needed because it was mental health and it was dealing with self-care. And it was also online. So all you needed was an internet connection. And so that was the good thing that I was able to see from the impact that COVID kind of had on me, but how I was able to muster through it. Now, for other people, it hit them in a different way. Some of you had took huge business losses, whether you had to close down temporarily and lose a lot of money, or you had to close down, period, or you were a small business and you were just getting started, but you took a heavy hit where your business is concerned on the financial gain for your family and for the community. Some people lost housing. Okay, because you can't afford to work because you lost your job because your job had to close, and so now you can't afford housing. Some people lost loved ones. Either they lost them to COVID or they lost them, period, just based off of illnesses or things that was going on in their personal life, but it wouldn't allow you to be there with them. You couldn't soothe them. You couldn't reach out and touch them, and you couldn't bury them. The whole funeral process this year has been altogether different. We can gather to have closure on the loved one's passing like we normally do at funerals. We're there to comfort each other, be there for one another, and we just could not do that this year. So it has taken a toll on a lot of us in a lot of different ways. So needless to say, we had to accept the reality that all the planning that we did for this year, we were not ready for this. Okay? Mental health issues have increased. I mean, we'll say this, because people have had, they've had these whatever concerns or issues they were dealing with mentally, right? But they were dealing with it privately. They were able to go to work and avoid it. They were able to, go practice something, some kind of coping skill, or leave the house and address it and deal with it. They were able to leave the abuse or get attention from somebody, whether somebody was neglecting them, but they was able to get attention from somebody else by going and leaving the house and being with someone else, or they were able to, like I said, get away from whatever abuse they were dealing with in the home or whatever hostility they were dealing with in other arenas and avenues. And this year, with the shutdown, they were not able to utilize that source of coping because they had to remain in the home, in the structure, with those issues and with those concerns, or realizing that their single life, they had to actually come to terms with the idea of being single. It's easy to be single when you're able to get out and about, but it's hard to be single when you're shut in by yourself. And that silence gets pretty loud, and that space gets pretty empty over time. And people quite don't understand that until they're in those moments. And so that's why I said mental health issues increase. It didn't necessarily increase where all of a sudden people were getting, it just was more exposed. And so now more people were saying, hey, this is bothering me now. This is triggering me now. My anxiety is increasing. My stress is increasing. My depression is taking over. Different things are suicide just really took a toll, and amongst our youth, even more so, because they didn't have a summer. They didn't have an end of school. They didn't have a back to school. They missed out on so much necessary peer exposure and socially that it was so necessary to their very wellness and their development that they missed out on. And we just seen more recorded mental health concerns and issues. Our emotions have been all over the place, and despair has reached homes that it just truly came like a thief in the night, just all of a sudden in your home, all this despair, all this chaos amongst the world and within the world, so processing and understanding these things happened, right? This is what we are dealing with. Emotional discourse, mentally just inept, socially. We were dealing with so much socially between communities and cultures clashing over just the right to be here, the right to live, the right to just have the freedom of our life and to pursue the things that we're desiring to engage in with one another and in our own pursuit of happiness and our own pursuit of life socially. People being killed and dying in the Black community just over just sensical things. And it's just a lot in 2020. It's just a lot. Okay? A lot of division, a lot of disappointment, a lot of unexpected changes, illnesses, concerns, and loss of connection. So I invite you to be in the moment with those feelings. Just accept that you feel all of the things that you're going through. Validate how you feel about the lows of 2020. Now, we hear a lot where people, and I'm also, I'm a very positive person. I try to see the positivity in things. And so you'll see, just don't focus on the lows. How we're going to push through if we're always thinking about this. We just got to get to the other side of it. We got to be happy. We got to be high spirit. We got to be positive. And these things are true. But at what point in time do I get to be in my sadness? When do I get to validate that I have sad emotions as well as positive emotions? When do I get to say, I'm not okay? When do I get to say, today, I just can't pull it together? When do I get the freedom to be like, you know what? In this moment, I just want to be alone. And that's what I invite you to do on today's show. I'm going to validate your feelings of 2020. I'm going to, matter of fact, validate your feelings of period. Because if you've always held in your feelings, 2020 was definitely hard because you've already been holding in so much and now you get all this heaped on top of you. So I'm going to validate your need to feel today. I want you to release the thought that you can't be disappointed, that you can't be upset or disgruntled about the events that took place this year or previous years. That will be me being mismanaging your emotions by telling you to continue practicing emotional avoidance. And I do not want you to continue avoiding your emotions. That only causes unhealthy emotional wellness. That leads to stress. That leads to anxiety. That leads to the inability to allow your body to repair and go build an immune system. You can't properly assess the situation. You can't assess your moods. You can't properly process your emotions. You're not really understanding what's happening. And now you're losing concentration, focus. Stress has a way of taking control of your body and just wrecking it. And not processing your emotions and being allowed to be in the moment with your emotions is what feeds chronic stress. You're always in flight or fight. It's okay for you to say, you know what? That happened. This happened. Process those emotions. This year has been a year of grieving, if I could just put a name on it. We grieved the loss of loved ones, loss of celebrities that we respected and admired, as I mentioned previously, loss of jobs, loss of normalcy, loss of being able to just visit family during the holidays or just simply go on a vacation. We lost the ability to go shopping at the store without looking like a fashionable bank robber. We experienced loss on so many levels this year that this is literally the year where we just grieved. We just grieved. Normalcy is important. We don't realize how important it was, the freedoms that we were allotted until it was taken. Until it was hijacked by the coronavirus. Until it was hijacked by the continued social injustice. Until it was hijacked by fear. Until it was hijacked by all these natural disasters. Until it was hijacked and we just grieved. And then not have the room to grieve. Because we're being told just to move on. Just to push through. Not to deal in the moment. We grieved. We grieve. But there is hope. There is hope through your grief process. I invite you to be in the moment with your emotions. I invite you to feel all the feels. I invite you to experience what you are experiencing. I invite you to be in this moment and breathe. And I also invite you to the idea of hope. That while you are processing these losses and range of emotions, that you understand that we can get through this and we shall get through this. So there are 5 steps that I want to talk about today that will help us process our emotions and the grief that we've endured this year. So here are the 5 steps. 1, accept that it happened. Now that's a hard one to swallow, yes. A lot of things happen, yes. I'm still processing what happened, yes. Especially understood when it was unexpected and you didn't plan for it, nor did you have a backup plan. However, we still must accept that it happened. The only way to begin to process your emotion is to accept that you even have an emotion over something. And in order to allow yourself to say, I have an emotion about what just happened, that means I have to accept that it happened. A lot of times we deny ourselves those emotions because we don't want to accept the fact that this thing occurred, that this person passed away, this person treated me like this person disrespected me in this manner, this issue unfolded, right? So if we deny the necessary and appropriate emotion that would connect to it, then we have to realize that the thing happened. So the first thing in processing our emotion is to accept that it happened. Prayer, faith, family, and friends, being in the moment, journaling, coping skills. Those are things that we can do as we are accepting that something has happened and helping us to even deal with that, right? Number 2, accept what you can't control or change and forgive yourself for it. This is a process of releasing your blame. Now, usually when it is beyond your control, you still find a way to blame yourself. One of the 4 Greek translations for the word forgiveness is charisma or tresmo. Forgive me if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. But it means to bestow a favor unconditionally, to show oneself gracious, kind, benevolent, or to grant forgiveness, to pardon. We struggle with forgiveness for things that we should have known, could have done better, should have been able to do, should have known that was happening, a lot of hindsight. Hindsight is 2020. This year literally is the epitome of that phrase. Hindsight is 2020. If we knew what 2020 was about to be on, we would have prepared for it way better, and 2020 probably would never happen, right? We do a lot of shoulda, coulda, wouldas. But to be honest, even if it was in our control, we are still humans, which means we still are prone to make mistakes. We are still prone to do something wrong, to not get something all the way quite right. Things happen. And we have to pardon or make allowances for those things. Create space for things to not always go the way we intended. Allow that grace. And it says to bestow a favor unconditionally, right? And it's funny that that's what forgiveness means. That means to be able to be in that process of grace and allotment and just knowing that you'll forever have to forgive because we are imperfect. So we're going to be forever having to make a pinch and make things better, make things right. Things are going to happen beyond our control, things that we cannot change. We just got to live with. We have to get in the season of unconditionally providing that space of grace and forgiveness. Allowing space. That's important. Allow space. The question is, how will you move beyond what happened? How can we move beyond this place? How can we move beyond this emotion? How can we even fathom the idea that this emotion won't last always? How can we accept what has happened by accepting the emotion that's connected to it, that's trying to teach us something, and accept that we are not perfect and things are going to happen beyond our control and in our control, that we're still going to have to create an allotment for forgiveness. And then number 3, not get stuck. Don't stay there. Give that emotion and situation an expiration date. You cannot change the scars from what happened, whether they're visible scars or invisible scars, because it's an emotional scarring, and we can't change those scars. They're there for proof this happened. But don't allow it to paralyze you. The things that you should know about emotions are that they keep us human. They record traumatic or joyful experiences. And sometimes they lie. Because sometimes they are remembering something that happened to you in the past because of a triggered emotion from the present to make you think that that's presently happening to you. Let me break that down for you in a better way. I said that emotions record traumatic or joyful experiences. So what happens in the brain, a situation happens, you perceive it however you want to perceive it. You assign an emotion to it, and then therefore that produces a reaction or a response. The next time something similar to that emotion happens, or the next time something similar to that situation happens, it's going to trigger the past memory of that thing, and then causes you to evoke that same energy to what's happening presently. And it may not even be on the same magnitude of what happened in the past, but it's going to be as if the past is repeating itself. It's going to be as if this is happening all over again. This is how trauma works. This is how, for instance, if you were like Tennessee, the Great Flood, when it was just so, it was distraught, right? And then later on that weekend, when it started to rain, the memory of what just even that triggered a fear. And then immediately you're like, oh Lord, please don't let the flood come again. Things are triggering when you are in a situation and that smell or that touch, or you cry, and that sad trigger, makes you feel pain emotionally again. And so it brings up all the emotional pain of experiences that you've dealt with in your life. And now you're just really, really down and out and just depressed and just can't just move beyond this moment because this moment didn't bother you, but the presence of all the other moments attached to that same emotion came back up into the surface and presented itself back in your present. And now all of those things are bothering you. Not this individual isolated moment. Not the here and now. This is why it's important for your brain to weigh in on how to handle the situation. It's important because your brain then says, hey, this isn't that situation. This is separate. This is different. This is how we're going to proceed. That's the perception. That's the thought. It's saying, hey, no, wait a minute, flag on the play. This is not that. This is not the same thing. And we're going to respond differently to this. Or this is similar to that. And so that it doesn't go back to, so that history doesn't repeat itself, let's handle this differently. But you have to allow your brain to weigh in on the matter and not just be driven emotionally, because you will get stuck. And that's why I say that the emotions are important, because they teach us lessons and they bring things to our memory and they allow us to create the memory by attaching it to an emotion. But sometimes they lie because they will make you think the same thing is happening again that is not. And your brain has to weigh in on that. So you don't want to stay stuck, because what happens if you stay stuck in that emotion, your brain never weighs in, depression leads to suicide. Because you're going to get further depressed, further isolated. Everything's going to be catastrophic and things are going to get worse in your world because that's your perception. Your emotion is driving your perception instead of your perception and your thoughts being in control. or you're angry and now you become violent because you're not processing that. Assess the situation realistically. Hey, I may be presently triggered by this particular situation for the next couple of months. And I'm going to allow for that. I'm going to allow myself to be in the moment with this thing, and it may last longer than a day. It may last longer than a week. I'm going to allow myself this amount of time to be in this emotion, to be in this moment. But by the fourth month number 4, I'm going to start then taking steps to get back to me. I'm still going to acknowledge that happened. I'm still going to validate my feelings about it. I missed them. It hurt. Whatever happened. But I will not live in the sorrow of it because I will begin to die. It may sound harsh, but it's reality. If you stay stuck in something long enough, you will begin to lose your zest for life. Internally and externally. It happens internally first. You start losing your energy, your vigor, your desire, your passion, your thought, just your will to live. Everything just starts to dwindle. Things start to dwindle. You're angry all the time, so you don't see any happiness, any hope, any peace anywhere. When you get stuck in these hard emotions, internally, they start to eat away at you. Literally, stress begins to that cortisol that's released, it begins to attack your body. The dopamine, none. Serotonin, none. There's no reuptake of the neurons. There's no transmitting of the communication system with inside your brain telling you, hey, there's none of this. This is starting to weaken your cells, your blood cells, the flow of energy and the transmit. Things just start changing and stopping. And then externally, it shows up because you look tired, you look weary. You start gaining weight, you start losing weight, you start losing hair, you start just losing life as we know it when you get stuck. So I am encouraging you guys to not get stuck, to keep from getting stuck, set an expiration date on that emotion. It does not mean that it didn't happen. Milk has an expiration date. Once you have that milk and it's past the expiration date, the milk didn't all of a sudden evaporate. The milk still exists. It still exists. It just doesn't serve you anymore. It just isn't healthy for you anymore. Milk was healthy for you. Experiencing this emotion, experiencing this situation was healthy for a moment. But then past its expiration date, it began to be toxic. It no longer serves. That feeling is real and is appropriate. And what happened is not going to just go away. You're going to remember. But can you remember and choose to live? Number 4, find strength in others. You've heard it this whole time since March. We are in this together. And honey, that is so true. Because we have to understand that doing something by yourself, facing something that happened by yourself alone is so much harder than when you understand and comprehend that you are not alone in this. Other people are sharing in this with you. Whether it's a hurt, whether it's a loss, whatever it is. Connect to people that you know share in this with you. That's why support groups are good, because we're sharing in that emotion. We're sharing that experience. We've been there. It normalizes it for you. You're not alone. You're not alone. We all lived through 2020, maybe affected differently, but we all lived through it. Reach out to support groups. Contact your friend or your family when it gets tough to manage. Get a therapist. Seek a coach. Create your village. Include your family, your friends, your community, your kids' school, doctors. Identify how they can help, what role they play, and allow them to play it. Because we need one another. Life is not intended to do alone. If it were, God would not have made Eve from Adam. And let me tell you that again. He would not, first of all, have not made Eve, period, but he would not have extracted her from Adam's rib. So that tells me not only do we need each other, but we are one and the same at the core. We are more alike than we are different. And if we can get past that, then we can understand how to love each other more and be there for each other more. And this 2020 COVID experience, pandemic experience, social injustice experience, up and down experience, loss experience, grief experience has taught us that. It has hit the high. Right now there is no have and have nots because we all are losing in this. We all have lost in this. We all are. We all are trying to get through it. And number 5, learn from this. What have we learned from this year? Even though it was rough, we do have to admit we did learn something from this year. We learned to cherish each other, to make better financial plans for emergencies, to create a support system of people that we can call and connect with to pull energy from. We learned the value of hygiene and staying home if we're sick. We became tech savvy. We learned how to appreciate our teachers for the work that they do. Because honey, look, trying to juggle being a teacher and your own work from home job and be a mother on top of that, come on now. That was a challenge all in itself. And we learned to value our essential workers because they had to keep going, risk and all. And I mean every essential worker. The grocery store people are essential because they have to keep us fed. The farmers are essential. They have to keep us fed. The electric company, they have to keep our lights on and our water running. Hospitals, doctors, you know the role they play was crucial and vital. Social workers, therapists, mentally having to keep us sound and together, providing us resources that we need. The essential workers, we show our gratitude to you all. Thank you so very much. We value you. We learned patience because this thing was just, we realized we were not in control and we couldn't make it move no faster. It just had to run its course. We learned patience and the power of connection through family time. Family time became the most important thing that we've done this year. Pouring into family and being creative and flexible with it. There is always something positive that we can pull from a situation if we just look for it. So again, those 5 steps for emotional processing of the losses and the range of emotions from this year is 1, accept that it happened. 2, accept that you can't control or change what happened and to forgive yourself for that. 3, don't get stuck. 4, find strength in others. And 5, learn from this. So as we bring 2020 to a much needed close, remember to breathe, process through it, and devise a plan for the next step because we can't stay here. We are in this together and we will get through this together. Peace, love, and self-care.